Good evening and welcome to our February Smyrna Town Council meeting. Tonight, before we move into our meeting agenda, there are public comments. So the town's public comment period shall be reserved for those citizens that have signed up to address the town council or a board or committee at least 24 hours in advance of the meeting pursuant to the town's public comment policy as outlined above on our agenda. If you would like to submit in writing any additional notes, you are more than welcome to do that. We do have 4 people on the agenda for public comment tonight. I will remind you when you come forward if you'll state your name, your address, and if you live in the town limits. And then if you'll also keep your comments to 3 minutes, and Miss Amber over there makes sure that that happens. So, but first on the agenda, we have David Campbell. Hey, David.
Good evening. I'm David Campbell. I live at 706 Riata Court in Smyrna, Tennessee. I've been a resident of Burton Farms subdivision for over 20 years.
Great.
Tonight I'm coming in front of the board and asking them for a traffic study. We have constantly speeders, people that don't observe the stop signs, running them constantly. We have certain homeowners that have been violating codes, which I found out yesterday. A nice gentleman called me and is working on those. But I would just ask the board to for more patrol through our neighborhood to help us, and a traffic study to be done. And basically, that's about it.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, we have Sandy Fippen.
Good evening.
Hi.
My name is Sandy Fippen. I live at 1232 Rimrock Road in Burton Farms subdivision. And I have been a town of Smyrna resident now for 10 years.
Great.
Same as Mr. Campbell, I am here to ask if there is anything that we can do to increase patrols through our neighborhood. We have a 25-mile-per-hour speed limit. It is nothing for people to go flying down Burton Farms Road or Rimrock at 60 plus. We have no sidewalks. We have had at least one child injured. We have had near misses with people who are out walking. Our neighborhood does not have sidewalks because it was before sidewalks became a requirement. We also have video evidence from multiple neighbors of people getting in their cars and literally drag racing down both sides of the road on Burton Farms and on Rimrock. We have had multiple residents deal with the fact that they are driving the speed limit in our neighborhood. And people get mad, honk, pass, and take off at 40 plus through a residential neighborhood full of children. We have also had it where, because of how they have parked and or other instances where buses can't even get down the road because the roads aren't wide enough and we've got people parked everywhere, that contribute to the dangerousness of the speeding and people trying to pass because their cars staggered through the entire neighborhood. Like I said, there are very few that actually stop at the stop signs. I would like to see stop sign road markings at every stop sign in our neighborhood. It is very hit and miss. And we would also like to have stop signs at every intersection in our neighborhood, even though they don't stop for them. But that is what I would like to bring toward the council. We are doing this because of a great concern for the safety of the residents of our neighborhood. And we're hoping that you can help us find a solution.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Next, we have Pat Saylor.
I'm Pat Sailors. I live at 812 Riata Court, and like David, I have been in this subdivision for over 20 years, so I've seen it grow from like 3 streets all the way to what it is now. I walk this neighborhood daily, so I see the issues that we have with the traffic. I don't know how many times I've had to step up on a sidewalk, or not sidewalk, driveway, or in a yard because of a speeding car that sort of terrifies me and the dog that we're going to get hit. And that's so rude. Just scares me sometimes, and I don't scare easily. My observation is the speeding is worse on Rimrock and on Burton Farms. They kind of have a dragway. They come down Rimrock, Burton Farms to get to Chicken Pike, to get to Lee Victory and on about their way. We're just kind of a cut through for them now. And some of them are our neighbors, but we know most of the cars, and they're not usually our neighbors. Another concern is the running of the stop signs, like Sandy mentioned. I go through almost all of the stop signs when I do my walking daily. I witness more going through it than I do stopping. Typically, what I can see is, as I approach a stop sign, there may be 5 vehicles. 1 will stop, 2 will slow down and look, 2 will flat run it like it doesn't exist. And that's dangerous, so dangerous. We have multiple instances where cars have been stopped at the stop sign on Burton Farms and Chiquita, and because cars coming down Burton Farms, it's inconvenient for them to stop at that stop sign. So not only do they run the stop sign, they run past the car that's stopped there. I witnessed it, a couple of our neighbors, and I think Sandy's had the same thing happen to her. You know, I mean, they just right on down. So car coming, they'll have to stop because they're going to take the right of way. It's dangerous for our children walking to the school stops and walking home from the school bus drop-offs and everything. We're concerned about our children. We're concerned about our adults like I am. I'm walking. There's a lot of us that do walk out there. And so, you know, we have to be so cautious and listen all the time for cars coming up behind us and making sure that we're watching them every second. What I'd like to see is more patrol in the area, more staking out of the stop signs, and maybe if they have to pay money out of their pocket, they'll stop running these stop signs. Maybe having lines like Sandy brought up too on the street, and maybe even the yellow blinking lights on the stop signs would help. Anything that you can do to help get us in a safer zone would be so much appreciated by all the neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Janet Pancher.
Good evening.
Hi.
Janet Pancher, 310 Burton Farms Drive. I've lived in my home for 23 years. I was probably the 5th house built in the neighborhood when it began those years ago. I live on Burton Farms. I know what they are saying is fact. I see it all the time. In the summer, I'll be working in my yard. I'll be weeding, whatever, and I'm actually running to the top of my driveway telling people to slow down. I'm screaming at the top of my lungs. A child's going to die. It's going to happen. You know, we don't want to sit back and mourn and go to a funeral of a child because no one cares. It needs to be fixed. If I sound a little angry, it's because I am. I don't have children, but for those that do, I love those kids. I love everyone that walks their dog in the neighborhood. I'd love to walk mine, but he's crazy. I can't. Well, he is. He's crazy. That's why we call him Cujo. But anyways, I want to lighten it up a little bit. But like the young lady said a while ago, a child did, I'm going to say sort of get hit. It happened. He was able to get up and walk away and run to his mom. One of these times it's not going to happen. He's not going to be able to get up and run to his mom. His mom's going to be looking at him in a casket going in the ground, or a little girl, or maybe an elderly woman walking their dog. I'm tired of it. I want it to stop. I love that neighborhood. I love all my neighbors. We care about one another. We care about y'all that don't live in our neighborhood. We want you to have safe places to live and be able to walk down your streets. Please help us with this. I'm begging you. It's got to stop. The people driving through there, we have We're off Chicken Pike, for any of you that don't know. It's a very busy place. And then we're off behind a subdivision, I'm sorry, I don't know the name of it, that goes out to a street named Corners. I'm not even gonna say a lot of the traffic is people that don't live there that does this. There's probably many that live there that do it. I've seen drag racing. I got in my car one day and chased these kids down. I probably went beyond the speed limit, to be honest with you, to get to them. I couldn't. They had went out toward Corner and were gone. It's sad. I don't want an email to come to me and say we lost a child. But if we don't get this fixed, it will happen. Or we're gonna bury an elderly lady or a man that just retired to live out their life and can't. I'm done.
Thank you. Sadly, I hate to say, it's not just Burton Farms that we have this issue. I would say every person sitting in this audience has this issue in the neighborhood in which they live, or probably even when they drove here tonight. People that take speed limit signs and stop signs as suggestions as opposed to the law. And it is as frustrating to us as it is to each of you that got up to speak. Obviously, our police department can't be everywhere 24 hours a day to make sure that people are stopping at stop signs and not speeding. But Chief, if we can make sure that there's more patrol in Burton Farms and have a presence, then I think that will help. Dave, if staff can have some discussion with these homeowners about traffic calming options and what options that they have as a neighborhood to look at for traffic calming options. And then I also heard you talk about enforcement of parking on the street. And I think we started some of that last night, if I'm not mistaken, once we kind of knew what you guys were coming to discuss. We do have an ordinance in regards to parking on the street at night. It's not during the day, but it is at night. And we do try to warn citizens first so that they don't just automatically get a ticket, but they know that they can't park on the street. So, but Dave, if you and staff could have some discussion and then get back with these neighbors with some options that we have here in the town that might be able to help. Council, anything else?
No, I heard one comment about having stop signs at all the intersections. That may be something you want to look at just to see traffic calming and traffic flow. That might slow some people down, more stop signs. But it's as frustrating as she said for many of us as it is for you. But they're all good ideas. I know from a safety perspective, the fire department, police department, they're very, they don't like speed bumps and things like that because of emergency vehicles have to traverse those as well. But maybe there's a way. I heard painting the lane to warn about a stop sign. Maybe those are some great ideas. Maybe if you can get with the staff and have them look at those, I think that's something that could certainly help and at least make them feel a little bit safer.
Well, and again, like they said, you can put up 1 million of them, but you've got those ones that just are not going to obey them unless Jason and his team are there to write that ticket. So I don't want you to feel as if what you've said is falling on deaf ears, but I also want you to know it's an issue that we're having all over the town of Smyrna. So, okay, we will call this meeting to order. And Chaplain Tim York is going to do our prayer tonight, and our pledge is going to be done by Town Manager Dave Santucci. If you'll all stand with us, please.
Let's pray. Father, we're thankful for this day. We're reminded as we came in, the rain reminded us of the showers of blessings that you provide for us each day. Lord, we pray you'll bless our city. We pray you'll bless our leadership. Father, help all of us to be good neighbors to one another. And Father, we ask you that you may continue to bless and guide, and may each one of us hear from you and know how to be better citizens. We ask in your name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty Whew, Dave, you were quick on that. I couldn't almost get turned around. Miss Amber, if you'll do roll call.
Yes, ma'am. Councilman Dempsey? Here. Councilwoman Peoples? Here. Councilman Cole?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilman Short?
Here.
Councilman Sullivan?
Here.
Vice Mayor Atkins?
Here.
Mayor Reed?
Here. Okay, item 4 is approval or corrections of the minutes of the of January 14th, 2025 regular meeting, January 28th and January 30th special called meetings, and the January 30th, 2025 workshop meeting of the town council. Jeff, are these in order?
Order is to form, Mayor.
Council, any additions or corrections to these?
Motion to approve the minutes.
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes pass. Amber or Dave, any correspondence, communications, awards, or recognitions tonight?
No, ma'am.
Nope. Okay. Then we will move on to the consent agenda. And the consent agenda are items determined by our town manager to be routine items and not necessarily needing individual discussion. I do like to read these items so you know exactly what we're voting on. If there is something that council wants to pull off and have us discuss and vote on individually, we can do that. Tonight, we only have 4 items under the consent agenda. The first is approval of the terms of and authorization for the mayor to execute an agreement with S&W for the traffic signal improvements at Poplarwood and Seminary in Amaville and Poplarwood. Item B is approval of the terms of and authorization for the mayor to execute an agreement with TDOT for the sharing of the town of Smyrna and TDOT-owned fiber. Item C is approval of the terms of and authorization for the mayor to execute an application with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers for permission to use Jefferson Springs Park for the annual Boat Day and Waterfest event on June 21st, 2025. Item D is approval of the terms of and authorization for the mayor to execute an agreement with G&L Tank Sandblasting and Coatings LLC relative to the recoating of the reuse water storage tank. Council, is there anything you have questions specifically?
Item A, Mayor.
Okay, we'll pull that one off. Is there any other item? Then do I have a motion to approve item B, C, and D from the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
A motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. So we'll go back to the item that Councilman Dempsey asked to be pulled off, which is approval of the terms of and authorization for the mayor to execute an agreement with S&W for traffic signal improvements at Poplarwood and Seminary and Amaville and Poplarwood. Jerome?
Yes, I had a question. Thanks, Tom. Seeing they put up a camera last week, is that part of this project? And then also, how long will this project take?
The cameras are part of the ITS project going on, so we kind of have 2 projects going on at the same time. There's the ITS 3, 4, and 5, and then there's this project to bring those traffic signals up to speed on what they need for the development to come in. So the cameras probably was put up with the ITS project.
Okay, how long will this project be before it's finished, the improvements to the
The
signal?
ITS?
Huh?
The ITS project or this project?
This project?
I think there is a, I thought there was 90 days to completion on it.
It's probably in the contract, and I haven't
Yeah,
looked.
there's like so many days before they get into liquidated damages. I can't find that.
I think it is too, yeah.
Is it 90 days?
90 days?
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks. That's all I had, Mayor.
That's
Okay.
it?
Any other questions? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Okay, do I have a second? Second. Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Tonight, under old business, we have 5 public hearings. The first public hearing is a consideration of an ordinance amending the Town of Smyrna Sign Ordinance, Chapter 6, Permitted Signs in Non-Residential Districts, Section A, Signs Other Than Billboards and Interstate Signs. Jeff?
Yes, Mayor and Council, this amendment to 5B and an addition of C clarifies and also adds, so the bands of neon lights and adds, or LED rope lighting shall be restricted to accent along the roof lines. And it also clarifies that no bands of neon or fluorescent lights shall be placed in windows irrespective of the presence or absence of a sign. And then section C, dealing with LED rope lights in commercial structure windows is prohibited except for temporary holiday lighting, which is exempt from this restriction. And that is all.
Council, we've had quite a bit of discussion on this. Anything for Jeff before we go to the public? Okay, then we will go to the public to see if there's anyone here to speak for or against this item. Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing and go to council for a motion.
I move we approve.
A motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. And Dave, you and I had discussion about the property on Nissan that might fall under this.
Yes.
So if you can just maybe have them look at that, be great. Okay, item B, public hearing is a consideration of a resolution relative to a plan of services for property located on tax map 54, part of parcel 14.03. Kevin?
Yes, Mayor and Council, this is the plan of services for the annexation, which is the next item on your agenda. This does put in detail the services that would be provided by the town upon the effective date of annexation, which would be all services in this case except for water, which would be provided by Consolidated Utility District. The Planning Commission did hold a public hearing and review this plan of service and did recommend approval. Staff would also recommend approval.
Council, questions on plan of service for this property? Okay, seeing none, we'll go to the public to see if there's anyone here to speak for or against the plan of service for this property. Okay, seeing no one, we'll close public hearing and go to council for a motion.
Motion to approve.
For a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. We'll now move on to item C, consideration of an ordinance relative to the annexation and R3 zoning of property on tax map 54, part of parcel 14.03, requested by Robert Tressiter, containing 1.77 acres. The property is located on Green Gate Place. Kevin?
Yes, Mayor and Council, this is a request for annexation. Property is part of a larger tract of land, but the portion that's been requested to be annexed does have the frontage on Green Gate Place, which is a short cul-de-sac within the Westover PRD development there. The land use plan would support medium-density, single-family residential in this area. Surrounding zoning is R3 and PRD, which is the Westover development in town, and RM in Rutherford County. As stated earlier, the town would be providing all services to this area except for water. The Planning Commission did review this request, did recommend approval. Staff would also recommend approval.
And Kevin, this was for 2 lots on this
Yeah,
property,
yes,
correct?
Yes, ma'am. They're requested, it's about 1.77 acres. We did receive a subdivision plat. It's already kind of pending, obviously an annexation being approved, but it would be dividing that 1.77 acres into two lots,
Okay.
single-family lots.
Kevin, I received a couple of emails from some homeowners in the Westover subdivision that was asking questions about these lots joining their HOA. It's my understanding that this annexation has nothing to do with the Westover PRD. They wouldn't automatically become part of the PRD or part of the HOA by being annexed into the town.
Correct.
They're still just R3 lots that are now in city limits.
Yes.
And we can't require that they be part of the HOA. Is that correct?
That would be my, yeah, I don't know that I'm not an attorney that could probably best answer that, but that would be my understanding. It wouldn't be a requirement. It would be hard for us, I think, to require them to become part of an HOA, that they're not part of the overall development.
Okay, since you're not an attorney, but we do have one on staff, why don't we check with him to see
Look how lucky
if
we
that
are.
can be, we're gonna make him earn his money tonight,
Well, I happen to know the answer to that.
okay?
So, because this is asking for straight zoning, R3 zoning, if you are making an agreement, if you do this, we'll do that, that's contract zoning, which we're not allowed to do. And so also an HOA is a private contract between private individuals. And so it would not be prudent to force them into a contract with these other subdivisions. Now, if they wanted to do it, then that would be something else. It wouldn't be prohibited.
You're talking about the HOA?
If.
Or the
homeowner and the HOA.
Yeah, the homeowners. If they were like, yeah, we'll agree to do that, it's just that the city forcing them, or town forcing them to, as an agreement to be zoned that way, would not be legal.
Yeah, I'm going to be quite clear. The emails that I got, it wasn't clear to me whether they wanted them to join the HOA or not. It sounded more like they didn't want them to join the HOA. So either way, it's completely up to the landowner and the HOA to work out that agreement one way or the other if they wanted to, right?
Correct. If this was a
Yeah.
PRD, that would be a different story.
Right.
Okay.
Yes, Kevin, did we have any contact from the people at Bankside subdivision?
I'm not aware we had any contact from the folks in Bankside.
Okay.
The folks we heard from were within Westover.
Thank you.
Other questions? Okay. This is a public hearing, so at this point, we'll go to the public to see if there's anyone here to speak for or against.
Yes, ma'am.
And if you'll, same as public hearing, if you will state, as citizen comments, if you'll state name, address, and if you live in the town limits.
Yes, ma'am. My name is George Crenshaw. I live at 1548 Repton Road. I have lived in Smyrna since 1989. I do represent the HOA for Westover. I do have a letter to read. We, the homeowners of Westover subdivision, are submitted to a formal letter of opposition to strenuously voice our objections to granting the property owner, Robert and Lucina Trosider of 4356 Morton Lane across through our community cul-de-sac. The 1.76 acreage referenced in Resolution 25-6. This cul-de-sac is within 50 feet of our very busy neighborhood playground, which the newly formed HOA Board of Directors has intentions of expanding and improving. Additionally, this cul-de-sac is constantly and consistently full of neighborhood kids playing basketball, riding bikes, scooters, and skating. This is a very lively corner, frequently populated by children. It is our belief that ripping up newly installed curbing and sidewalk to allow access through the playground cul-de-sac will be detrimentally impactful of our neighborhood. The newly completed neighborhood of December 2024 has a very specific aesthetic and color scheme with strict HOA rules regarding maintenance, upkeep, and appearance. We believe allowing two randomly built homes that are not part of the neighborhood and therefore not subject to the same aesthetic rules and standards of our homes, i.e. fencing, color schemes, outbuildings, lawn maintenance, and additional structures, could blemish the look of our community and severely impact the property values of our homes. As the Trosiders own the remaining parcel of 14.03, which border the 1.76 acreage referenced in the Resolution 25-6, it is our suggestion that this property be accessed as such from their own adjacent property. Further suggestions would be to access through other adjacent properties owned by Michael M. Murphy or Bankside Development. As the current property owner will benefit from the sale of this tract, the property owner should also bear the burden and inconvenience of making the property accessible and buildable. We object to having any construction material delivery, heavy equipment, or related traffic drive through our neighborhood streets to access this property. We object to the removal and destruction of newly completed sidewalks, curbing, and freshly topped coated streets that were just topped in October 2024. To accommodate the current property owner's request, we object to any vacant land within the existing Westover Development subdivision referred to as OS or open space to be utilized as construction material storage laydown areas. This includes storm detention basins or ponds. We object to having any construction vehicles or workers related to any building of property improvement parked along the streets or in any of the open spaces located within the Westover subdivision. All impacts due to the sale of this land and in development, construction, or improvements to the property should be borne solely by the property owner and not the neighboring 148 families that live next door.
3 minutes, Mayor.
I have signed letters from the residents as well.
Okay, if you want to get those to Amber, she will get those into the records.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Crenshaw. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak for or against this item?
Hello, my name is Brenda Sparks. I live at 1528 Repton Road in Smyrna. Just completed a year in September here, moved from central New York, and one of the reasons we picked this area was because of the overall aesthetic, the hills, the greenery, the openness to allowing development. I'm in construction, I'm in development, I understand. I don't necessarily want to say, no, I'm against it, but as a resident, I do value my home value, and I want to make sure that whatever is put in is aesthetically pleasing and is not going to diminish my home value. I guess that's it.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yes, I'm Robert Tresidder, the owner of the property. I spoke with Mr. Crenshaw a couple of weeks ago.
Before you get, will you state your address just so Amber has it?
4356 Morton Lane.
Great, thank you.
In the city?
Pardon?
Is that in the city?
No, it's not.
Okay.
It's in the county.
Okay.
So I spoke with Mr. Crenshaw a couple weeks ago, and I assured him that I appreciate their concerns, and my concerns are basically the same. I live right next door to it. I still have like 14 acres, and I want to get with a real estate attorney to write up a sales contract that the lots will not be any further split or developed, and that the requirement for the home will match the median house within Westover or better. So I do want to have a contract set up for whomever purchases these properties.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Mr. Trester? I have a question. So you're wanting to do you're wanting to address some of the issues that the homeowners association has, but you're not wanting to create covenants where those two properties join their
I prefer
home
to leave
ownership.
that up to the people that purchase the properties. They can evaluate the benefits of the HOA at that time.
Okay.
That's my preference.
Okay.
If you'll state your name and address.
Thank you, Mayor. Dan Eppright, 114 Seward Street, Smyrna, Tennessee. Yes, inside the
Town limits.
that's the one. All right. I just have a question, and you don't have to respond, but I just, has the properties had an assessed valuation placed on them? And has the HOA put a bid in to own the property? That's it.
Anyone else to speak for or against? Hi.
My name is Jason Luckett, 1427 Kennebec Drive in the Westover community.
And you're in the town limits?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Members of the town council, I want to thank you for your time, and in particular, congratulate council members Dempsey, Peebles, and Sullivan on the recent election and re-elections victories, which I voted for you all. I hope you want to just make that known.
And what is it you need?
So I am a member and homeowner of the Westover subdivision. I'm here to express my opposition to granting access through our community cul-de-sac for the reference resolution on Greengate Place. So this newly completed neighborhood is home to about 150 families. As George said, the cul-de-sac is used as a school bus pickup location each morning. It's used by children when they're playing basketball, biking, skating. It's right next to the playground. Additionally, it serves as an entrance to our neighborhood walking trail, which I personally use weekly when I'm walking my dog. Now, Councilmember Short, I know that you often walk the town greenways, and I know that's a thing that you do based on your council corner interview. So I know you specifically understand the importance of having that space and not being impeded in that kind of space. Now, I also know that almost all of the council members have children and will understand what it's like to have safe spaces for them to play in and to occupy within their own neighborhood, and the importance of getting outside and interacting with others as opposed to being inside insulated and the effect that can have on their mental and physical well-being. The approval of this resolution will restrict the use of the cul-de-sac for our residents and for our neighborhood. Furthermore, as George said, the neighborhood has a specific aesthetic and color scheme that our HO has established in order to maintain level of value. We also have rules related to maintenance, upkeep, and appearance. Our understanding is that these new potential homes will not be members of this neighborhood HOA, and therefore could have a detrimental impact on the look of our community as well as the property values of our homes, pending the choices made throughout building and pending the choices made of the future homeowners. Many owners in the neighborhood would be aggrieved to know that a community we bought into at a high price point and during a period of high interest rates could be undercut in this way. Vice Mayor Atkins, given your experience in real estate, I would bet that you have a good idea of the impact to home values that could occur if a home was not up to standards and the property, for whatever reason, was substandard. Now, council members Cole, Dempsey, Peebles, and Short, you have each made statements regarding your service as council members and your desires for the growth of the town of Smyrna, using terms such as growth in a productive manner, smart growth, and responsible growth. Moving forward with this resolution would be done at the expense of about 150 families
3
in this
minutes, Mayor.
subdivision.
You're welcome to leave that with Amber if you'd like, or you don't have to, either one. Thank you. Anyone else to speak for or against? Jeff, I have to ask, I have to get clear, can he come back to the mic if he's already had his 3 minutes? Okay. Council, I'll leave it up to you all.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to hear what he has to
Okay.
say.
I just want to respond to the cul-de-sac. The reason the cul-de-sac is there is I made an agreement for the developer to come across the back of my property when they went into to sewer back there, and the negotiations was that cul-de-sac get put there so I can split those lots. That was done before the subdivision was ever engineered, because they needed access to the sewer, which was across the back of my property, which is adjacent to that.
So you gave a sewer easement for that subdivision to be able to have sewer?
That was the way that subdivision was able to be engineered and developed.
Okay, thank you, sir.
I've got a question.
Sure,
Mr.
wait,
Trustee.
Mark Scott.
So, and Mr. Luckett brought up a point that, about the impact this might or might not have on that subdivision. They have a color scheme and they have an upkeep. Their HOA requires them to upkeep, and we've heard about the HOA already, so. Being R3, an R3 zone is not a PRD zone, so we don't really get the option per se of telling you what you can do as a PRD. R3 is a blanket coverage zoning. So my question for the impact part of this would be, I heard you say a while ago that you would agree to have some sort of real estate attorney look at your restrictive covenants for the two lots, right? Is there language that you would agree to put into that restrictive covenants that gives them the concerns they have with impact and color schemes and so forth?
Absolutely.
That would match up to their properties so that
Yeah.
they don't have a concern of wondering what's going to be built back there, right?
Absolutely. As I said earlier.
Because R3 would allow you to do an 1,100 square foot, no garage,
Yeah.
vinyl sided home.
Yeah,
It really
as I
would.
said the first time, I wanted to get a sales contract set up, so whoever builds a house in there, it was going to be at least as good as the median house within Westover, or better.
What
So
about
you-
the color scheme that came up from two speakers? Would you
I
have,
don't
if
have
a
any
builder were
problem
to
with
buy
that.
lots from you, is that your plan?
Yeah, they're going to
Okay.
build, buy
So if
the
a
lots.
builder were to buy lots from you, would that be a covenant that they'd have to meet along with the square footage restrictions?
Absolutely. Yeah, because I would think the color scheme is for a better appearance in the house, which is what I want, because I live right next door.
Would you, I know you said you didn't want to do this, but would you make it a requirement if this is what the HOA wanted, that those two lots join the HOA to help alleviate some of their concerns?
I would, again, I would prefer not to, but I don't really have a problem with that if that alleviates their concerns.
Okay? Okay.
And again, I have to get to a real estate attorney and get that all worked up.
But would you be willing for that to be part of a motion if this moved forward tonight?
If required by the HOA?
Yes, if
Yeah.
the HOA, yes. If required by the HOA, that the two lot owners would have to join the HOA.
And that's a great legal question, really, that I don't know even he can answer, right? Because that HOA is for Westover. How can they require a landowner next to them?
Jeff said they
Jeff.
could.
They can't
If they
require it.
agreed.
They could offer it,
I thought he
right?
said he couldn't require it. I thought they said that.
But they
we
can voluntarily agree to be a part of the
There.
HOA.
Not a requirement, yeah.
But he's
he
the
would have to be the
landowner.
one.
Right?
I'm trying to take that hat off. Jeff, answer the question.
Thanks. So, we cannot require it. You're asking him if he will actually volunteer to do it, I guess. And so, private parties can contract anytime they want to. So it could be, wouldn't be right, but there's a neighborhood across town they could share an HOA with, because it's just a contract between two parties to be bound by certain rules and obligations.
I think her point is putting it in the motion, which would essentially be us requiring it, right?
Well,
Agreeing to do it if they came together.
if he's making that as part of his plan, then, yes, first time I've heard of that, but then, as long as we're not requiring it.
Well, and Steve brought up a point in the very initial part of this. This is a separate piece of property like any other landowner might be beside of a development or beside of a subdivision. So we have to kind of look at it, from a legal perspective. I think that's how we have to look at it. Would you agree?
Yes.
Okay.
Got a
So
que-
there's no way to give them assurances if he was agreeable to that within what we do tonight?
Correct, and because we don't know the outlines of what all that agreement may look like or what it
Okay.
may be, so I'd hate to be too general whenever we don't know.
Well,
Right.
and we've had a previous case, this is where my heartburn's coming from. We're dealing with another incident on Lee Road where I made a motion that said these parties are gonna agree to
Right.
something. We can't really force two parties to agree to something. So
Right.
without having an agreement presented to us tonight, I don't think we should include it because we're just creating
And the
a whole
HOA's
other-
not been able to agree to
Right.
it either.
Okay.
It doesn't sound like either one wants it, to be honest.
Got a question.
Sure. Yeah, let him ask his
Thank you. When you made the agreement with the developer of this for the cul-de-sac, was that documented? Was this subdivision, I guess HOA made aware of that? Where was that really?
It was in the, I'm not sure if Mr. Rigsby has that in the early development plans. I've got some drawings that I approved when I dealt with the Land Solutions
So,
to get this done,
Yeah,
to get
what-
that cul-de-sac. And on top of that, I required all the utilities to be brought to those lots as well.
yeah, I guess my question is, if I was a homeowner in there buying and under the assumption that was going to be part of your contiguous property access from the other side, I think I'd have some heartburn as well. And then my question also, where are we in the bonding process of this cul-de-sac, the roadway? Is it under bond or is it not under bond? Has a maintenance bond been released?
I believe that's in the phases, just one of the
this is under maintenance bond. So,
We have a bond on the entire development, still part of it is going to maintenance, part of it has.
so
Yeah, some of these were in last.
that in itself is kind of assurance that the curb, the roadways and all that would be fixed. But, and Jeff, this is a question for you. If this is under maintenance bond, is it open to the public? Is it that can access it from any contiguous land? You know, where does it start that the public can access this?
So it's already a public street, correct, Kevin? Yeah, so it's already recorded, so this maintenance bond is just, is it going to hold up the way that they have it? I say there could be some discussion about if you're allowing construction traffic in there, to the extent that it is, would that maintenance
be
bond
adequate?
cover that?
Yeah.
Or would they say, hey, we didn't contemplate there would be more construction in here?
Right.
And so then it would be upon the town to make those repairs.
Not to complicate it, but hey.
Okay. Okay, is there anyone else here to speak for or against this item? If you'll come forward, state your name, address, and if you live in the town, please.
My name is Andrew Bratcher. I live at 1400 Kennebec Drive, so I'm part of the Westover. Smyrna resident for 28 years. I have really big concerns, mainly because I'm not a licensed engineer, but I've been in the business for about 38 years. My concerns is really, I just hate that this piece of property wasn't integrated into the original development. Okay, that's my biggest aggravation because I see it daily. Okay, meaning that I do all kinds of construction documents for all different consulting firms. So that's my biggest concern, and I don't know, I just wanted to, state my case that it would be great that these two pieces of property, that two homes would get built there, and they would look and blend in with the rest of the subdivision, and they would also pay HOA fees just like we do. Because as you look at the way it's laid out, that cul-de-sac, is pretty much the only in and out of those two parcels. It's blocked from behind and to the other side. So, I don't know, I just wanted to state my case, so.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
My name is Kevin Brando. I'm the homeowner at 1471 Kennebec in the Westover community in Smyrna. And I just wanted to second what he said. Everyone has spoken and said their piece, and it's valuable information, and I don't begrudge the gentleman wanting to be able to sell his lots. What concerns me is the fact that they're going to be driving, the only way to access that is through a sign that says, "Welcome to Westover." You drive in and you go through Green Gate and then they're, so effectively, they're part of that community if you look at the way it's laid out. Now, it just seems to me that I agree that I'm frustrated that it wasn't part of the original development, but it seems to me that they should, and I understand that the council may not be able to dictate that, but what seems fair is if that's the case and if everyone has a problem with it, if it can't be dictated by the council, if there could be some agreement by the homeowner, or by the landowner rather, that says in the future this is a requirement, I don't know what the legality of that is. And furthermore, if that can't be, is it possible to just require that there be a separate entrance like all the other properties around our development, and they have, the single use, aren't part of a community. They all have their own long roads and driveways that access their property. So I might suggest that might be another option. But if they're going to be using our services, our roads, and they're going to be going through our playground, and presumably, if I lived there, I would use that playground too. So it seems like they should be part of the community, and I don't know what the legality of making them, holding them to that. But I just wanted to kind of second what that was and point out that the only other solution I see besides, is to require some sort of separate access. And I don't know how that's possible, but just want to put that out there. Thank you.
Anyone else to speak for or against this item? Okay, then I'll close the public hearing. And council, before I ask for a motion, it sounds like there's some things that possibly could get worked out between the two groups before we make the decision for them. And I would be curious to know if the property owner would like to try to work those things out prior to us taking a vote with the HOA and with what you were talking about with the real estate attorney. Would you rather do that, or would you rather us go ahead and vote on it tonight?
I have to. I have to find a real estate, I don't have a real estate attorney in mind. I have to find a real estate attorney, and again, I have all those things that I want to set up to control the property. Again, because I live right next door, I want it to be nice. And as I said before, on the cul-de-sac, you see those little pieces that are coming down. Those were negotiated in and deeded to me for that very purpose. The original line was a straight line from that one peak all the way back. So that whole cul-de-sac was there as I allowed them to use my property for sewer access.
Right. And I guess what I'm saying is, before we take a vote, that possibly could be no, I'm not saying it would be, would you rather us defer this item so you could try to work that out with them so that y'all could come to some agreement that everybody was happy with?
I don't have a problem with that. I do, again, I have to find a real estate attorney.
Okay.
Does 60 days give you enough to do that instead of 30?
Sure, yeah.
One of the things I want to make sure we point out, because we do this with all of our developments. Somebody asked the question if he had another way in and out of there. Would that be the only way in and out if that were the case?
Yeah.
So I'm asking, I'm going somewhere with that.
Uh-huh.
We always look to make sure, if we can, a development has at least 2 ingress-egress points. And that's for safety purpose. One gets blocked in a storm, whatever, we got another way in and out of there. So having one way in and out only does get concerning for us when we plan, right? So this does give you more than one way in and out, because Westover has more than one way in and out.
Yes.
So that's part of our safety process when we look at things. Not to say that's a plus or a minus to do it, but those are things we would look at as well, and that's the way planning looked at it.
Yeah.
Right.
And I don't know why the developer never approached us in the first place to purchase that. We were open to it. They never did. It would have been simpler because I required so much right there. I don't know why they didn't.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, so council, I'll open the floor now for a motion.
So my initial thought is there's obviously a lot of concern about the lots not really being part of the Westover subdivision, even though they are adjacent to it and basically connected to it, right? Anyone, I think, reasonably looking at this, these lots look like they should be part of that subdivision. And I agree with you that they should have probably purchased them from you originally, but they didn't. So I think the right thing to do is to investigate and go down the path of trying to get these included in the HOA, so they would be an equal part of the subdivision like every other lot. And then the HOA would have the authority to ensure the things they need to ensure. So I'll make a motion to defer for 60 days to give the landowner time to investigate that conversation.
Okay, so a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Jeff, we won't be part of that negotiation and all of that. That's something that they have, the HOA and the landowner are gonna have to do on their own.
That's correct.
Okay, so I just want to make sure everybody understands that.
Mayor, I'd also ask that Kevin go back and look at the bond amount, just, to get a good feeling on that, to make sure we have enough in
And
place.
Kevin, do you have any notes or anything where easement was given through his property for utilities for Westover?
I would have to go back and look at the file.
Okay. I was
Most
just
likely
curious.
we do, but I'll have to go back and,
Okay.
I haven't looked at it
And without it,
recently.
there's no Westover.
Right. Right. So, okay, so we have a motion and a second on the floor. Any other discussion? I hope maybe you all can get together and come up with something that works for everybody involved. But if not in 60 days, then we will make a decision then. So, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes to defer. Okay, we'll move on to item D, which now we don't have to do. Do we need to defer it or anything? I don't know that we've done that.
Let's go ahead and defer.
I make a
Defer
motion
it.
to defer it for 60 days.
Okay,
Second.
motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item is deferred. Our next public hearing is consideration of an ordinance amending, and let me say this, those of you that are here are welcome to stay if you'd like to stay, but if those that were here for that item, you don't have to. So, our next public hearing is consideration of an ordinance amending the text of the Smyrna Municipal Zoning Ordinance, Article 2, Section 2.020, definitions, and 2.035.11, special institutional care facilities, Article 4, Section 4.010.2G, Article 5, Section 5.053.3, I3, Heavy Industrial District, and Article 7, Section 7.061.14, special conditions for special institutional care facilities. Y'all didn't know I could clear a room that fast, did ya?
Oh, yeah.
So, Kevin, questions about this?
Yeah, these amendments, there's several sections of the zoning ordinance obviously being discussed here, but they're all cater or around one thing, which is to, basically one category of uses known as special institutional care facilities. This category currently is not allowed in any zoning district, even though it is an allowed use under our ordinance. These proposed amendments would add a definition of a group shelter, clean up wording regarding the use classification, create a parking requirement for the use, to allow the uses as a special exception in the I3 Heavy Industrial District, and amend the special conditions which the category of uses would be required to meet. This will correct an issue within the zoning ordinance while limiting the potential locations this category of uses could utilize. The proposed amendments we did give to you in your packet there. Language to be removed is struck through in red. New language is highlighted in yellow. The Planning Commission did review this, did recommend approval. Staff would also recommend approval.
Okay. Questions for Kevin or comments? Okay, this is a public hearing, so is there anyone here to speak for or against this item? Seeing no one, we'll close public hearing, go to council for a motion.
Motion to approve.
A motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Our last public hearing tonight is consideration of an ordinance amending the text of the Smyrna Municipal Zoning Ordinance, Article 4, Section 4.073, minimum lot area and frontage requirements within a planned development. Kevin?
Yes, this is an amendment to one section of the zoning ordinance. It was something that was discussed originally at the December 24 council meeting, where all of our various amendments that we put in place regarding new requirements for PRDs were adopted. This amendment would change one item in that area, which would be to require a 20-foot landscape buffer within a PRD when that PRD abuts properties owned either R1 in town or RM in Rutherford County. No other aspects of the new requirements would change, so we're just adding that one additional requirement. I did include that entire phase or entire section of the ordinance for everyone's, so you can see all of it, but the proposed amendment is highlighted in yellow and what we submitted to you. Planning Commission did review this, did recommend it to you, and staff would also recommend approval.
Questions for Kevin, on this. We've had quite a bit of discussion on this.
Yeah, I have a
Sure.
question, Kevin. I know we've got typical landscape buffers called out, but I guess the planning commission, as these would come in, would try to designate what kind of plantings, caliper and everything that would fit that 20-foot.
Yeah, it's a good question, and generally, we have staff guidance on that. If there's, if it's clear cut or whatever, staff gives us a recommendation on whether it should A, B, C type buffer.
Right.
And then, but we get to look at that.
And who maintains it? Not individual property
It'd be
owners,
HOA.
but HOA, yeah.
Typically, something like that, we would want to be a part of an HOA maintenance. So each individual property owner wouldn't have to necessarily maintain their lot.
That's it, Mayor.
Yeah, we got our eye on that too, so.
Okay. Other questions or comments for Kevin? Seeing none, we'll go to the public to see if there's anyone here to speak for or against this item. Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing, go to council for a motion. Make a motion, I have a motion, I have a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. We'll move on to new business now. Our first item under the Planning Commission report is consideration of an ordinance relative to the rezoning of tax map 27P, Group C, part of parcel 4.00 to go from C2 to PRD. It's requested by House on Rock LLC. The property requested to be rezoned contains 4.65 acres and is located on Enon Springs Road West. Kevin?
Yes, Mayor and Council, this is a rezoning request on Enon Springs Road West. It's about 800 feet west of the intersection with South Lowry Street. Land use plan for this area is the Depot District Character Area, which would support a mix of uses and services that are more urban in lot sizes and setbacks. Retail, restaurant, office, and attached residential and multifamily are particularly appropriate for this area. Surrounding zoning is C2. Our report says C2. There is some adjoining property that's C3 as well, directly to the north. The requested PRD is for 35 townhomes for an overall density of about 7.52 units per acre. Square footage of heated space for the units would be 1,500 square feet for two-car garage units, 1,560 for one car, and 1,800 for the units that do not have garages. 8 units would have the two-car garages, 19 single car, and 8 would have not have a garage. All units will be 2 stories, exterior elevation finishes showing the first floor to be clad with brick, second floor finished with fiber cement. Proposed amenities include a playground, fire pits, outdoor seating areas, and planted garden space. Access would be via a single ingress and egress point on the western side of the property off of Enon Springs Road West. The Planning Commission reviewed this, did recommend denial due to inconsistency with surrounding zoning, 740 against. There were a few comments that staff had made that would still need to be addressed if you all were to choose to approve it. Primarily regarding the bus shelter and there's issues with the CSX easement. Want to be sure they're confirmed that everything's out of that easement. But staff would also recommend denial.
Council, any questions on this?
Yeah, I have a question, Mayor, on, just say, whatever happens here on this vote, but if it came back in the future, is there any possibility of a rear access as well? I don't know if that's a public way leading to the storage units, or if there could be some kind of access across the adjacent C2. If it ever, because traffic is horrible, like you said, Mark, on Enon Springs there, it backs up past Hazelwood.
Yeah, I mean, there's no, the only potential additional access would be through that adjoining property that is all under the same ownership. I can see a little bit better here, which is this area. This is all one ownership. There's a small little tract here, and then this here.
Yeah,
But you're talking about the back side.
But there's this is all privately held, so I guess there could be the property owners could work out some sort of easement.
Go back to the future slide if you could. There appears to be some kind of, okay, that's part of the C2 C3, the little
Yeah.
sliver
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, there's
Okay.
that's the access back to the
Okay.
storage units back here, yeah.
Yeah, that one access to Enon Springs is just
Yeah.
not ideal at all.
And that's what I was saying, this is all under the same ownership, so
Right.
you might could work out some sort of, obviously, second access through this track, because it's under the same ownership. Otherwise, it's gonna be another property owner would have to agree to
And
some
then-
sort of an easement.
What was the thoughts of the planning commission on this, on their
Well,
denial?
when it came to us, it's rare for us to give up C2 property back to some kind of residential or high-density residential. All the zoning around it's contiguous in the commercial district. So when we look at spot zoning, for example, that's what this kind of would be. It's a small track, and I know we as a council and planning have all looked at these small tracks where people are, they buy them and they attempt to maybe come in with a 4 or 5 acre tract and build a lot of townhomes to density. And I think we're just wise to that a little bit. We just don't want to see that taking place on little tracts all around town. So that, plus the fact that the zoning is not a proper fit, and I guess you watched the meeting because you heard me talk about the traffic on Enon Springs, and so all that combined just made all of us look at it kind of not in favor. Would you agree, Steve?
Yeah, we voted unanimously to deny it because of those issues. And, this was the second time that they've submitted it. They made some improvements. They added garages to every site. So the builder's done a few things to try to make it a little more palatable, but it's still spot zoning around commercial on a road that's extremely busy and, it just doesn't fit the area.
Other questions or comments? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
Move to deny.
Have a motion to deny. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor of denial, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes to deny. Okay, item 2 is consideration of an ordinance relative to the rezoning of tax map 50, parcel 14.07 to go from C2 to I1. It's requested by Caravan Ventures. The property requested to be rezoned contains 3.57 acres and is located on Tridon Drive. Kevin?
Yeah, this is a piece of property that is on Tridon Drive. It's about 250 feet, kind of northwest of the intersection with Safari Drive. The rear of the property does border I-24 right-of-way and the Amble Road exit ramp. Land use plan for this area is the 24 Gateway Character Area, which would support a mix of uses and services, kind of both local and regional in scale, such as hospitality, retail, restaurant, and multifamily. Surrounding zoning does consist of C2. There is some industrial zoning, one tract over at Safari Drive there. That whole area going further east and south is all I-2. The Planning Commission did review this request, did recommend approval unanimously, and staff would also recommend approval.
Okay, questions for Kevin on this?
I know this property is highly visible from the off-ramp, and, I know it's zoned commercial right now, and it's wanting to go to heavier industrial use. With that, I guess if it does get rezoned, we'd have to look at a site plan with some kind of screening in the rear or something.
And look at the building itself to try
Right.
and make a good look to the building. What their proposal, or what they want to use it for, of course, obviously, I-1, they wouldn't be restricted to this, but what they're proposing to use it for, they're a heavy equipment like forklift, sales and service company is what they want to use it for. And having seen some of their other sites that they've got around the country or whatever, they have a good look to them. They're not junky looking buildings, but.
No.
But, yes, we would have to, I agree completely with the
And I do
visibility.
know access into that area is kind of tricky with the, coming off 24 and then having to leave, going back out past, I think that's Burger King.
Correct, yeah, you come out at the signal there,
I think the town redid the bridge.
that's correct, yeah.
And Jerome, kind of piggybacking on what Kevin, was this not the one that we gave a lot of consideration to about what the building was gonna look like, the aesthetics?
It was actually on this property right
Okay,
here.
okay.
Yeah, there was a proposal to rezone that property to, it was like a heavy, or a tractor trailer, like, maintenance facility is what was wanting to go here.
Yeah.
And they had pretty much an all-metal building and that sort of thing, and,
Yeah.
and that never came, I don't think they withdrew it after planning commission recommended against it, I believe even.
But Jerome, I'm in agreement. Aesthetically, I mean, that, you're gonna see that
Yeah.
right there. So I agree, we need to make sure that it
And
is
and
aesthetic.
part of
So the
that,
type of-
you mentioned it, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you were talking about it's gonna be a forklift dealer or repair company, so that still falls under an I-1 rather than a commercial?
Yeah, that's like it's an industrial equipment type company, yeah. So
Okay.
it'd be an industrial.
Because it sounds like if they're gonna be selling them, it sounds commercial to me anyway.
Right.
Not so much, not really?
Based on where the category uses falls, it was an industrial zone, yeah.
Okay.
It's, I understand where you're coming from. It is kind of a little bit of a hybrid, but it does fall under, since it is an industrial equipment. Wasn't C5, really, which is obviously for automotive sales and that sort of thing. It wouldn't fall under that either. So that's why we looked at the industrial.
And so what are the two additional,
C2 tracks.
the tracks that are south, that one is unimproved property, but the two next to it?
The two,
Adjacent, yes.
these
Are they
are,
industrial
those
or
are industrial. One of those is a petrochemical kind of storage and distribution company. I think one of those might be, or it was one time, was like a plumbing company or something, I think.
Used to be a Walter A. Wood over there.
Walter A. Wood was one of them, yeah.
Okay.
And I think to Jerome's point, Bo, leaving that commercial probably, to find a commercial buyer in a kind of industrial district right there.
I would just hate that we pass off that off-ramp and see a bunch of
That's a good point.
forklifts out there and a gazillion parts
Yeah, there'd have to
trying
be
to be
some,
reassembled.
there'd have to be some significant buffer
Yeah.
in there, so I'd agree. When we talked about it planning, obviously, I-1, I-2 in this area, is I-2 across the street, I-2 down the road further, it kind of fits the area. My view was a C2, which is what it is now, would probably tend to be higher traffic than an I-2. It could be a hotel, a store, or something like that, and to your point, Jerome, getting in and out of there is a little tricky. We've improved the road and we've tried to put a light in, so I mean, it's not impossible. But I think an I-1 type product here is probably less impact on the traffic in the area than a C2 product.
I've got no issue with it as long as we look at the site plan
Yeah.
hard and, we don't have a
I understand what you're
junkyard
talking- Yeah, I
there.
understand what you don't want to have a forklift junkyard as you're coming off the interstate
Yeah.
there. I
A
understand.
forklift junkyard.
Yeah.
Well, and I think Steve and Mark hear us loud and clear on that, so. Okay, so do we then have a motion?
I move to approve.
Have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Dave, anything under other from you tonight?
No, nothing under other.
Okay. So before I move on to the next item, there's some information that's been put out on social media that I kind of want to give some information from the town's perspective on, and it's the property beside Smyrna High School. And just so you all here and you all that are home watching know, the property's not owned by the town of Smyrna. I will tell you that it's privately owned, but it has been allowed to be used as league practice facilities for, I don't know for how long, for as long as I can remember.
30 years.
Yeah, and so, but there's been some information put out on social media that I just want to make sure that we correct. And so, Kevin, can you give us a little bit of history on that property that is right there beside Smyrna High School?
Yeah, the property it's been under the same ownership, from the nearest I can tell, for about 30 years or so, close to 30. Was zoned, it's currently zoned C2. The front portion is zoned C2. It's about 82 acres total. The front piece is about 35 and a half or so, that is zoned C2 with the remainder zoned R6. That zoning has been in place, since, well, as it's currently set up, was put in place in September of 1999, so over 25 years ago. So it's been there that long. Within that 25 years, a portion of the property, the apartments that are there currently, which is this tract here, was divided off of this. That was built probably 10 or 15 years ago now. But as far as the zoning, as it's currently set up, was done since a little over 25 years ago.
So, just so to give a little history on this, about a year ago, a potential purchaser for that property came to the town to do their preliminary due diligence, which is very normal for somebody that's looking to purchase property to do. One of the things that they wanted to see if was possible was, could there be a second access at Chicken Pike? And that's not a decision we can make as a town. That's a decision that TDOT has to make. And so they went to TDOT and asked TDOT, and TDOT denied that request. So, and not just the request for that particular use, but for anything coming to that property, which tells us that anything that develops with that property is going to have to use Bulldog Drive for ingress and egress. And there's going to have to be significant improvements to Bulldog Drive for that to happen. In doing their due diligence, they got with staff from the Rutherford County Board of Education in looking at what ingress and egress would be, because they would also have to look at closing J.J. McWilliams, which is the street that runs right in front of the school, and that's where buses normally access. So I went back and watched on February 4th, the Board of Education had their work session, and the presentation was made by staff from the school board about various items that were related to this project. And the three main things that they talked about were Bulldog Drive in general, ingress and egress of buses, and the potential of the Board of Education purchasing 35 acres in the back area. Kevin, use your little pointer. There you go.
Right here.
Purchasing that back floodplain area for $10, because it's our understanding in the deed, it is specific that it has to be offered to to Rutherford County. So at the February 6th meeting, the Board of Education voted to approve the purchase of the 35 acres for $10, contingent on the potential developers purchasing the parcel and that purchase going through. Now, all of that has still been part of the due diligence of that potential purchaser purchasing that property. But there's something I want made very, very clear. Nothing has come before the town yet. It's not been to Planning Commission, it's not been to the Town Council, and that they've not even submitted application to the Planning Department. They've just done their due diligence to then get to that point. But what's been portrayed on social media is that the council or Planning Commission has approved this project. And I just want everyone to understand that is not the case. So Kevin, they're working on doing their due diligence and have even put the potential purchaser has even put some things out, looking at getting out parcels leased. So can you talk about, from this point going forward, what our role is or what the process is for them to bring the property to the town?
Right. Well, as I said, the front portion is C2. The proposed use of a commercial shopping center is certainly allowed in that district by right. So there would not be any rezoning or BZA action necessary for a special exception or anything like that. It is completely a use by right.
To clarify that, that means that if they were to build a grocery store there, they could do that with the way it's zoned now, and that would not come to council for a vote.
It would not come to this body at all. The reviewing body would be the planning commission, certainly. And the planning commission would have to review the site plan for that building or any other buildings that were to be built, as well as a subdivision plat to create the lots that they're wanting to create, all that. And so but it would have to come through that subdivision process and the site plan process. They would have to meet all of our requirements, all our design guidelines, our landscaping requirements, utilities, stormwater, all those things like any development would. The traffic improvements that the mayor alluded to, all those things would have to be a part of all that and would be part of the review that we would undergo. And then that would go to the planning commission, and the planning commission would have to review it and make the decision whether it met our requirements or didn't. So,
The planning commission wouldn't be looking at whether they could do it or not. It would be dealing with the way that they do it, correct?
correct. The traffic
They have
pattern.
permission to do what they want to do
Yes.
right now, right?
Yeah. Has been that way for over 25 years, so.
So, and we've obviously seen, or we've had the opportunity, based on what was put out on social media by the potential land purchaser, what is not allowed currently under our zoning would be the residential down the right-hand side.
Yeah, their concept plan had some residential in this area down here. That's not allowed in Z2, so they
Right.
couldn't do that. They could back here with this R6 area, but down here they would not. So if that were to happen, yes, obviously that comes to this body as well as planning
That
commission.
R6 is, I don't know if you were gonna get to that, maybe we cut you
I
off.
was about to
but-
ask, I know where you're going.
Yeah, that's 46 acres, with 30 of it potentially being sold to the county. That means there's 16 to 18 acres there that by right, they could develop as apartments. Again, would not come to this council for approval. They would just have to go through planning and meet R6 requirements.
Correct.
And to that 16 or 18 acres, R6 allows 14 and a half units per acre. So if you do the math, there's a couple hundred easy
A
units
little over 200 units,
that could go in there without us having a doggone thing to say about it.
other than development plan review.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah, I've got one question. You know, we was talking about 2 ways in, 2 ways out earlier. Is Bulldog Drive the only way in to access even the R6 property?
Yes.
Okay.
Because TDOT wouldn't allow
Yeah.
anything else.
You'd have to enter the school property. on-
Okay,
on-
so my next question is Bulldog Drive a town property or a county property?
It's a public street. It was
Public
dedicated,
street.
it was dedicated as a public street when these apartments were built. It was a
When the
private street.
improvements were made and the traffic signal put in?
Yes, sir.
But doesn't it stop right there at the base of the
It
football
stops at,
field?
yes, it stops right here, right where it dead ends, right where the access is
private
to
drive.
those
And then the
apartments. Yeah.
next question is, can we restrict access to that?
I mean,
I don't, yeah, what are you
Yeah, I
talking
mean,
about?
if that, you know, if this is just something that we feel is gonna be safety issues with the high school kids and the bus traffic, is, how do you prevent that? You know, can you legally prevent access to that track from that public right of way? I think we discussed it a little bit earlier in the 2 tracks, Westover. I think you gave an opinion.
But there
on that.
is a second, you can go behind the school, between the football field. It does run for an emergency it runs behind and then behind the
building.
shop and the building and down the hill which then takes you out onto,
But that's not a public way.
no, it's not, it's for sure not,
They
no.
would be landlocked if you didn't let them out on
Correct.
Bulldog. And so.
And legally, we can't do that, correct?
That's right, they would sue to get that for sure.
There's also
Because TDOT
nothing-
won't allow them to come out.
There's nothing to prevent them from working out an arrangement with the R1 property and getting access at the top. I mean, they just have to have an access easement right across that one R1 property to get to the back.
You want to cross the creek?
You'd have to build a bridge across the creek, but yeah.
It's not impossible.
Yeah, I mean, but it's,
Well, then you'd be
it's a
going into a
possibility.
subdivision over there also.
That's what I said,
But
I
if
don't know if I
it's-
want to be in that meeting.
But if it's, I understand the problems with it, but
Yeah.
we're talking about access. There is another way to get access.
But Jerome, I
Yeah.
would encourage you to go back and watch that February 4th meeting.
Yeah.
With
Well-
what they talked about.
3
and-
in, 3 out, yeah.
No, but
Or 2 in.
what they talked about, they didn't like having to share that with what commercial and the residential, but it seemed to me that they thought they had come up with a plan that would make that work.
Well, I just know that some people reached out to me
They've reached out to
that's
all-
associated with the high school, with concerns about safety, you know.
Yeah, one of the concerns that was put on social media was that with the parking lot there, they could sit in the parking lot and watch the kids in the high school parking lot. The developer, and what they've actually put out, the way they put out those out parcels, that wouldn't be possible. There's buildings all along Bulldog Drive in their concept plan. So, I mean, there's just a lot of misinformation
I
out
just
there
wish
that's not
there
accurate.
was a different access to
Well,
that
TDOT could help
property.
us, but they won't.
Well, and I can see why, that's, you have
Yeah.
limited
Safety.
sight distance
Yeah.
right there at Chicken Pike.
Yeah.
But if it
That's-
could be moved on down, you know, where you're,
Well, yeah, and thank you,
Yeah.
you're right. But the area to the west side of the school, I mean, we just cut a ribbon on a huge expansion
Right.
over there.
Right.
That took up a lot of space too,
Right.
so, and we fought hard to get that with the county. We had county commissioners help us get that, and otherwise, we were gonna get rejected, as I recall, right? I mean, they were looking at doing
That
just.
access,
Yeah, they were just
yeah.
gonna do just Murfreesboro.
No, he's talking about the annex,
I'm
the
talking about the annex.
annex
Oh,
itself,
the
the
building,
actual
okay.
property.
Building.
But, so I just wanted, I did not want the perception out there to be that this has been approved by the town, and to a certain degree, our hands are tied if they choose to come in with what it's currently zoned.
They have legal right.
Yeah, we just have to, obviously, we have to review, they have to meet our requirements, and I think certainly traffic safety in that area
safety.
is
I'm
gonna
sure
be
Tom and Charles
paramount.
be
Yeah,
reviewing that real
yeah. I mean,
thoroughly.
I mean, there's quite a bit of improvements that they would be required to make on Bulldog as well, so to help with some of the traffic flow certainly, either at school time or not school time. But-
And that's one of the things at that February 4th meeting that was discussed by staff from the Board of Education of what that looks like with what they've been working with this potential purchaser of this property.
Is this the Amnon Schreitman
It
property?
is.
He is the current owner.
He is the
He is the current owner. He's
Yeah.
owned it
As
for
long as
30
we,
years.
well, I won't say that.
I'd love it if they would do the other 16 acres to the school as well. That'd be awesome, right? Because otherwise, that zoning is still there.
Yeah, you know, the C2 development, you know, is safety concerns, but you add in the R6 loaded up apartments, that's a whole different level.
Yep.
It would have been nice had the county purchased the property when they did the school, but
Yeah.
obviously that didn't happen, and so,
Yeah, I actually, I don't want to throw them under the bus, but I talked to a couple of folks at the county and asked them about why they didn't purchase it now. And the explanation that I was given was that they have limited funds, and the funds they have, they need to spend on buildings and classrooms, not on a practice field and a parking lot. And so that's really the reason that they're not buying this, is because they can't really afford to buy the land and just leave it sitting there. They need to spend that money on developing additional classrooms and schoolrooms for kids.
And I'd be curious how much of that does lie in the floodplain and a floodway.
Yeah.
Quite a bit of it.
Most of this area in the back, yeah, we don't have the floodplain on this map, but of course the creek is here, and so a big portion of this is in the floodplain. A lot of this is actual floodway right next to the creek up here. Kind of peters out as you get closer this direction. but there's even some 500-year up in this area.
Some what, Kevin?
500-year floodplain, which is not, from a
Oh,
regulatory standpoint, is not really, doesn't mean a lot.
How much of that do you think is gonna be actual buildable R6?
Well, not having seen exactly where the 30 acres goes to, majority of my impression is majority of the land that would be given or sold to the county for $10 is mostly the floodplain area in the back. So it would be this area up in here, which, again, that floodplain does extend kind of some of this area. So, but you probably still have, of the 16 acres that are left, you probably have 13 or 14. It's not a large area in the floodplain up in that area. So that's just an estimate. But,
So the part that they're buying for the $10 an acre, they're not gonna do anything with at all? That's what it sounds like for, okay.
It's not
That's
really-
what I'm
it's
trying
not-
to,
wouldn't
they're
be
not gonna be able to
usable
build
for anything.
anything on it.
But we for years had, is Mike Moss here? Yeah, there's Mike. The possibility, we have wanted to get a greenway over to
Right.
Smyrna High
Remember that.
School for forever. And there is the ability to go under the railroad track there by Karen's Custard that could, so, and that was one of the things they talked about, was us partnering with the county with that 35 acres if it came to be.
And that'd connect Gregory Mill, right?
Correct.
you could connect all the way to
Correct.
Gregory Mill eventually,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So,
As far as public streets, the only public streets on this whole parcel, including the school and everything, is Bulldog Drive, just that one spot of Bulldog Drive.
One
that juts
spot of
into-
Bulldog Drive, even the J.J. McWilliams
Okay,
that comes
that's what I
around here,
thought.
that's all private. This town-owned development here, that's all private. The only public street is this right here for this entire area. I know Mr. Schreiber had also tried to get an access across the railroad to get to 41 as well, and that was, he was unsuccessful there too. So, I mean, the property is Bulldog Drive based on TDOT's decision as well as the CSX decision. The only access it has is Bulldog Drive.
Kevin, at one point during the discussions over it, was there not a deal that the TDOT was going to give a right-only out onto the parkway?
I'm not aware of that with this discussion, with this particular, maybe there was
Not
something
this
in-
time, no, this was, I mean, it's been cussed and discussed for many, many years.
I'm not aware of that, but that certainly
Do
could
you
happen.
remember when that was zoned R6?
Oh, gosh. It's been a long time.
I think that was before our time,
Yeah, it was a
actually.
long time.
Yeah, this has been zoned for multifamily. Back to September of '99 was.
That went from R6 to C2, right?
There's some of this was actually, it was R4 at the time, actually, because that's before we created the R6. It was like this circular area. The zoning was set up like, almost like a radius from the center of this intersection. And so some of this C2 was up here, and you had some R4 down here, and basically they created this line here back in the September '99 to create it like this. So that you have this set up, and then all this was the R4. When we created R6 was like 2002 or something like that, and so it got zoned at some point from R4 to R6 at that time.
And what's the density on R6?
It's one unit for every 3,000 square feet of land, so it's about 14 and a half units per acre. Yeah.
You said up to
And
200?
that's been the case
This is,
going back
Units.
since the mid-'80s.
this is one of the only R6 pieces of property left in
That's
city limits.
vacant, correct,
And
yes.
it's
Couldn't
been-
wait to run out of
It's
them.
been this way for 25 years, but yeah, this is one of the last ones.
If you remove the 30 or 35 acres out, obviously that lowers it quite a bit, but still you'd have that.
The one prior to this, Jerome, you may know this from planning, the one prior to this was the one over there behind Whataburger and all that off of Sam Ridley. And you saw how that operated, it blew into apartments.
And that one had been developed, that one had been zoned since 1990.
Yeah, and so this is the last one like that.
but one thing I want to make sure the public understands is that we just can't go in and change zoning as much as we would like to on certain properties. We can't unless the landowner asks for that. And so I just wanted us to have some discussion because there has been quite a bit of information that's been put out that, that's been inaccurate information, especially in regards to what the town has and hasn't done. And I just wanted to make sure that the citizens understood that, to a degree, our hands are tied in regards to if something comes in and meets the requirements for that specific zoning. So I would encourage you to go back and watch that February 4th and February 6th Board of Education meeting. And I'm sure we will hear more about this parcel if they're planning on bringing it forward to Planning Commission, so.
And really, nothing would stop, a group of people to get together. I mean, the high school, the principal, all those people could organize and say, hey, let's raise some funds and let's control that property. But otherwise, we can't because of the zoning is in place. It's in place, and we can't change it.
Right. Okay, other comments or questions on that? Okay, thanks, Kevin. Item 11, status reports. Rex, how are you?
Good, Mayor, Council.
Wonderful.
January 2025 state share tax, we received $741,754, which is 4.34% ahead of prior year-to-date receipts and 2.05% less than the budget. January 2025 local sales tax, we received $1,742,705, which is 4.76% ahead of prior year-to-date receipts and 3.09% less than the budget. We are trending in a positive way on actual to actual, year to year, and very hopeful that we'll get very close to the budget by the time year end.
Okay. Questions or comments for Rex? Hey, thanks, Rex. Directors, department heads, any announcements tonight? No. Oh. Come forward, sir.
Mayor and Council, I just wanted to share some outstanding police work by your police department. I think it's important to highlight some of those things that they do every day. I talked to Mr. Santucci about this, and I wanted to share this tonight. The first was on January 29th. So the several areas, Hendersonville and then Murfreesboro were hit for over $400,000 worth of theft or merchandise, from burglaries in their area. Murfreesboro received or got suspect information and got an LPR hit on one of the suspect vehicles. At that time, they notified us that the suspects were in the area. Our officers responded and actually got these suspects in custody without incident. These suspects were linked to a ring that were hitting all the way pretty much down the East Coast, hitting businesses and burglarizing the businesses for a lot of value of merchandise. So, like I said, the two they arrested, or the suspects they arrested, were at least identified in over $400,000 worth of merchandise. So it was outstanding work by our officers responding out there and taking these people into custody. On February 1st, our officers responded to attempt suicide, individual hanging themselves or attempting to hang themselves, Imperial Gardens. The officers that responded actually were able to rescue the victim from hanging himself, perform CPR, and actually, from my understanding, the individual was taken to the hospital and survived that incident. So due to the rapid response from our officers, they were able to rescue this individual and perform CPR and save his life. On February 5th, Officer Morales conducted a traffic stop. During this traffic stop, on a routine traffic stop, actually, it was found that the suspect in the vehicle was carrying 2.9 pounds of cocaine, half a pound of heroin, and other drugs in the vehicle. And also the passenger that was inside the vehicle was wanted for drug trafficking by state officials and actually took that party into custody also. This is just 3 incidents within a week span, but just to let you know, the officers are out there performing these type of activities every day, weekly, daily, and yearly. Very proud of them. I'm proud of how they conduct themselves and how they conduct business and how they treat people, and also preventing crime and solving crime. I will tell you, where the residents came up from Burton Farms, we've already got our traffic division out there working this evening to address this. They went out last night and we'll be over there tomorrow. We don't want anyone living with fear or feeling like they are unsafe in their neighborhoods, and we will address it and take care of those situations, so.
Great. Thanks, Chief. Job well done. I don't think that, we don't think about it enough what these officers have to see day in and day out and how they put their lives on the line to make sure our community is safe. So we appreciate the jobs you all do. Okay. Amber, anything?
I don't think I can follow Chief, so.
Okay.
Ma'am.
Okay. Dave?
Couple things this evening for you. One, just want to recognize February as Black History Month, and it's a time to honor the African American men and women who have made positive contributions to our nation and our community. This month you'll be seeing some social media posts that we put out, some inspirational quotes from some influential African American folks who have notable contributions. So please take a look at that, and just want to recognize that this month for Black History Month. And as Mr. Peach pointed out, this truck was way out of its zone today, but this is a picture of the Capitol, and this right here is your brand-new aerial that we have all paid for. And it is a 2025 Pierce 107 feet long aerial ladder. Can pump 2,000 gallons per minute, and it's got a 500-gallon water tank. And we were lucky enough to be able to showcase this beautiful vehicle. Well, a little more than a vehicle, a little more expensive than a vehicle, too.
Does it have a sunroof?
Doesn't have cup holders either, so I don't know.
No, but it's got a state flag in the grill in the front.
Yep, it sure does. But yeah, we had this up at the Capitol, and we're able to get a couple of our folks up there to showcase this vehicle up there today. So there she is. And also just want to note, I know I told all the council here, but we did the grand opening for our new Fire Station 4, but we are operational as of yesterday. And just want to thank Todd Spearman and the rest of the fire department for doing what it took to get that place open. Was out there last night with the guys to thank them and see what they were up to. So it's a good
Is that
thing.
where that truck's parked?
That's where that truck will go.
Okay. Jeffrey L.
I believe I've spoken enough.
Jerome?
Yes, I have a public announcement here. Don't pay to file your taxes. The United Way of Rutherford and Cannon County's Volunteer Income Tax Assistance VITA program is now available Smyrna from January 31st through April 12th at Smyrna Town Hall. And I believe that's in the annex, isn't it?
Down below where you go.
Yes. VITA offers free in-person appointments to individual and families who earn less than $80,000 in 2024. The VITA program offers free tax help to households. During 2024 season, United Way completed the following: 1,634 returns e-filed, 1,752,000 in tax refunds, 522,000 in saved tax prep fees. 39 volunteers gave 2,100 hours of their time. Over the last 6 years, United Way of Rutherford and Cannon County's VITA program has served approximately 9,000 clients for nearly $11 million in refunds to our communities. And you can go visit www.yourlocaluw.org/VITA. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks. Raquel?
All right, I have a slide as well. Maple View Cemetery Spring Cleanup. Maple View Cemetery spring cleanup dates are February the 15th through March the 2nd of 2025. Please note that all holiday, specialty, faded, broken, or deteriorated items will be removed during the cleanup dates. The only way to ensure personal items are not removed and discarded is to take them off before the cleaning period and bring them back afterwards. Items will be removed during the cleanup dates. All items that are removed will be discarded. The town of Smyrna is not responsible for anything removed during cleanup. And that's all I have.
I've arrived. I get my own slide now. Shop local Smyrna, okay? Rex gave us the good numbers tonight. I mean, we're coming right along, but, you know, once again, the major part of our town budget comes from our local sales tax, so let's keep that up. Gosh, you know, there's a certain segment of our community that needs to be admonished for throwing their trash out their windows or not making sure that their trash makes it all the way to the convenience center. So, you know, y'all, let's all do better. Let's all do better, and then let's be kind also. Thank y'all for coming tonight. Oh.
Yeah.
Happy Valentine's Day to all you Valentines.
Good one. So I was at my store the other day, and I was looking out the front window, and I saw this young man get out of his truck, and he wipes his mouth, and he throws the napkin on the ground. Well, I just proceeded to march myself right outside, and I just told him that somebody was going to have to pick that up, and it was probably going to be me. So he politely picked it up and put it back in his truck. And then when I got back in, I thought, ooh, I may not should have done that. No telling what he could have done. But it just made me mad to sit there and watch somebody do that. I thought, why should I have to pick up your trash? So, but he did pick it back up and put it in his car, so.
Scared him.
Maybe I did scare him, I guess. Jerry?
I think I've got a slide. Yes, the Coos Scholarship is accepting applications now through March the 14th. The program offers educational opportunities to deserving high school seniors who exhibit exceptional academic abilities, leadership qualities, citizenship, and character, including participation in school and community activities. To be eligible to apply for the scholarship, the applicant must be a current high school senior who intends to enroll in a program of post-secondary education within 1 year of high school graduation, and either a current resident of Smyrna or currently enrolled in a high school that is physically located in Smyrna High School. If you want more information and to apply, go on the townofsmyrna.org website. Again, applications are accepted through Friday, March the 14th. And the only other thing is, I wanted to say condolences, Mike, to you and your family on the loss of your father-in-law.
All right. I also have a slide. I get the infamous, now famous census slide. Fire department's been hard at work contacting the community via phone and in person. If you've not completed the census, you will receive a phone call and possibly a visit from the fire department as they help us get to our census number. If you've already done it, we thank you, but we are just a little over 50% of our goal. So we still need, have more work to do. And Amber, you want to tell them how they can do that?
So firefighters are coming door to door, as he said. If you are not home when they visit your home, they will be leaving a door hanger on your door that will have the QR code on it. So if you want to go online using the QR code and submit it electronically, or you can call Town Hall at 615-267-5005 and provide that information over the telephone. I don't know if there's still any mailers circulating around people's homes, but if you see a yellow piece of paper, feel free to fill that out and pop it back in the mail to us. Or you can come into Town Hall and see us in person, and we'll gladly, take it if you don't trust a phone or the mail or technology, then we'll take a face-to-face visit at this point.
But you also can go online and do it, and if you go online and do it, that means our firefighters don't have to come knock on your door, so.
Correct.
And we're not sending the young, really nice-looking ones out, so don't try to
They're
have
not-
those really.
They're not
hot
selling
firemen.
calendars
That's right, we're not
along with
selling
census
calendars.
You just threw a lot of our fire department under the bus.
I didn't say which ones.
Well, yeah, but the guys that are going out knocking now, they're like, what am I, chopped liver?
Steve, anything else?
No, ma'am.
Mayor Esther, I need to back up and, Jerry, of course, reminded me about Mike's father-in-law, and of course, that was Walter Jordan. And I've been friends with the Jordan family for 60 years. I used to ride the school bus with them all, and Walter was like one of my first heroes. He was the big football player at Smyrna High School, and we went to every Smyrna High School game, and nobody bled more purple than Walter Jordan, unless he was bleeding orange. I wonder how that worked, because he was, Mary Esther, the biggest UT fan in town.
Great.
And I modeled myself after that too.
Gotcha.
But, the whole Jordan family has just always been great friends to me, and I just really want to pay greatest respects to not only Walter, but the rest of the family also.
Great. Mark?
I think I'll have a slide pop up here. If you're interested in serving the community, this is your opportunity. Apply to serve on a Smyrna board or committee. The town is taking applications accepted through the 20th of this month, or just log on to thetownofsmyrna.org for more information. I can tell you, everybody probably sitting on this panel up here, and some of you may be out in the audience, this is how we all started in getting involved in our community. So if you have a desire to do that, this is an opportunity to volunteer your time and your service to the town of Smyrna. I promise you, you'll enjoy it, and it's something that you'll feel proud that you did to give back to your community. Couple things, you mentioned Walter and Mike, to you and Haley and your family, Margie and everybody else, our condolences. We all thought a lot of Walt and respected him quite a bit, and so your family had a winner there, and we want you to know we've been thinking about you and praying for your family. Another gentleman that passed away, I played baseball with, Little League Baseball, John Dunaway. I don't know if any of you around town knew John, but John went to Smyrna High School, and he passed away. I think he was living in Antioch recently. But John was an athlete, a well-known athlete.
Big John.
Big John, and always kind and friendly to me. And I remember that as a probably 13-year-old child playing ball with him. Chief, I missed the chief because he's usually on the front row there taking a nap and taking pictures. And so he's not here. Just if you're watching, Chief, we missed that. Chief Irvin, you talked about your police force and some of the accolades that they've just accomplished, and we're proud of that. And I want you to know that this council will always support that police force, as we always have. To the Burton Farms neighbors, I know that you will take action. There's been a number of times we've heard of other people needing that protection or needing that attention, and you've always responded. So if you live in Burton Farms and you're speeding and going through the stop signs, or if you don't live in Burton Farms and you're doing the same thing, promise you watch your mirror, because they'll be out there and they'll be patrolling. Now, that said, you heard him talk about a lot of things that some of his officers just accomplished. They're out solving crime as well. They can't be everywhere all the time, but they do a pretty darn good job of protecting our town. We're proud of them. The Volunteer of the Year banquet, I know Mike has that coming up with the Parks and Rec Department. Gene Hardiman's going to be honored this year, and Gene is one of all of our favorite people. Gene's in the real estate business with me all these years, and he's just like a father figure to me. I love that man. I don't think he's probably watching tonight, but Gene, if you are, we're looking forward to honoring you and your volunteerism. And somebody mentioned Valentine's. My wife may or may not be watching, but happy 43rd anniversary, Valentine anniversary to her, and we're looking forward to celebrating. So.
Great. So Dave and I recently got to enjoy being on the Roundtable Show with Wayne Blair and Rick Hall. And I just want to say a shout out to them and how much we appreciate them showcasing the town of Smyrna and the positive things that we have going on. And Dave did a great job on the show. Mark, you brought it up, but congratulations to Chief Bill. We celebrated his 35 years of dedicated service with the Smyrna Fire Department We appreciate your commitment and leadership, and it definitely will have a lasting impact on not only our department, but our community. So we appreciate you. In that vein, Dave, do you want to give us a little bit of an update on where we are with the fire chief search?
Yeah, sure. As I suspected, and kudos to the town and just in general, this is a highly competitive recruitment. We have, last time I checked this morning, over 60 applicants, only been out there for about 2 weeks. So that position will close on the 17th. And we are using the resources of MTAS to help us out with that recruitment process. So I'm very confident that we're going to find a fire chief that's going to be highly qualified. We've got some really great candidates out there. It's going to be tough.
Timeline, you said 17th is closing. When do you think we possibly, if we find the right one, could be making an offer?
I would hope that we have somebody on board by May.
Okay.
Yeah, and of course, it's really going to depend on, where they are and located
And
and
notice and
those
all.
sorts of things.
Yep.
But
Okay.
my goal is to try to get somebody here by May.
Great.
Yep.
Okay, other questions or comments?
Yeah, we didn't have as much competition for Dave's job. I guess all little boys want to be a fire chief. They don't want to be a town
I think
manager.
it was only like 30 or so. It's like half as many.
Okay, if there, and Raquel, you and I, neither one had to remind the guys about Valentine's Day. This year, I think they're finally starting to catch on.
We're lovers, not fighters.
Gotcha, gotcha.
I sure hope Rick's watching.
Me too. Okay, if there is nothing else, then happy Valentine's Day, and we are adjourned.